It's been a treasure for the racing community for almost 50 years. The Texas World Speedway is just one of 7 speedways in the country, but plans have been proposed to turn it into a master-planned community. KIG's HD News reporter Monica Castro hit the track today and shows us how race fans hope the city will pump its brakes on this plan.
It's a really good racetrack, and it's fun to have such a good racetrack close to home.
Fans flock to club racing events at the Texas World Speedway.
We have people here this weekend from all over the country that have come here to a large extent because they know just how good a racetrack this is.
But racers may have to take a detour. The owner and land developer approached College Station with plans to turn it into a master-planned community.
It has several acres for a future school site. It has recreation centers. There's over 5 miles of walking trails, jogging trails.
If approved, this will be the area's first municipal utility district, or MUD. It's a political subdivision of Texas that can issue bonds to pay for the infrastructure.
It's a way for the developer to be able to recoup his cost for the infrastructure.
Welcome back to DannyBTalks in the Rise and Fall series, where this time we're talking about another defunct racetrack, and seeing as how the first track I did this on decided to come back from the dead, I figured this one should be a good topic because it's most definitely not coming back and is currently in the demolition process. Texas World Speedway first broke ground in 1967 and opened up in 1969, and its design upon its creation was to be an exact 2-mile copy of Michigan International Speedway, except located in College Station, Texas. At the time of its completion, it was one of only 8 super speedways in the United States greater than 2 miles in length, with the others being Indy, Daytona, Pocono, Talladega, Ontario Motor Speedway, California Speedway, or what's known today as Auto Club, and its clone track, Michigan. While it started out as an oval facility, they'd also take advantage of the interior and exterior roads around the speedway to create a 15-turn, 2.9-mile road course option to accompany the speedway as well. Now, while Michigan may have been considered Texas World Speedway's sister track, there were a few differences such as the banking. For example, in Michigan we have 18 degrees of banking in the turns, where Texas World Speedway had 22 degrees of banking. They both have 12 degrees of banking along the front straightaway, and the backstretch at Texas World Speedway has only 2 degrees of banking, while Michigan has 5 degrees of banking along the backstretch. Texas World Speedway became a regular stop for NASCAR's Cup Series beginning in their first year of operation in 1969, with the first race being held on December 7, 1969 in a 500-mile race which had 3 cautions, and Bobby Isaac, driving his 1969 Dodge, would go on to win the first race NASCAR ran here after starting 7th. There'd be no racing at Texas World Speedway in 1970, but it returned in 1971 with Richard Petty taking the win in the first of his 3 victories there, the most of any other driver in NASCAR. Other drivers who'd go on to pick up victories here include Buddy Baker, Darrell Waltrip, Cale Yarborough, and Benny Parsons. Along with NASCAR, Texas World Speedway would see 10 AAA USAC Champ Car Series races from 1973 to 1979, in which AJ Foyt would hold the win record at 4, including the final 3 from 1978 to 1979. However, by the 1980s, the track had become nothing like it once was, quickly falling into a state of disrepair, and thus NASCAR and open wheel circuits would not come back for future races, but ARCA, however, would, holding 4 races between 1991 and 1993, with those being won by Bill Venturini, and I'm going to butcher this guy's name, Eddie Birschwali, Mickey Gibbs, and Darrell Waltrip. Afterwards, once the racing stopped, the track was essentially nothing more than a shell of its former self, being used really for just a private car club facility or a testing track. In fact, in January of 2009, Greg Biffle would actually set the official NASCAR track record when a team was able to get around NASCAR's testing rules by going to Texas World Speedway, as he reached a top speed of 218 miles per hour with an average full top speed of 195 miles per hour. Likewise, for IndyCar in 2003, Jeff Andretti set what was then a closed track speed record of 234.5 miles per hour when testing at Texas World Speedway for the 1993 Indy 500. Now today, if you want to relive racing at Texas World Speedway, you really only have 2 options. Option 1, you can rewatch some old races that have been uploaded to YouTube. Or option 2, you can find a PlayStation 2 or Xbox with a copy of Need for Speed Pro Street, which included Texas World Speedway as a playable track in the game. However, with the racing having officially stopped here, what became of the track?
We begin this hour with dire conditions in Texas. Hurricane Harvey made landfall on Friday night as a Category 4 hurricane and has pummeled Houston and the surrounding region, bringing catastrophic flooding for days.
Devastated communities throughout Texas. The Houston Chronicle reported 276 major roads are high water locations, and over 80,000 people do not have electricity. According to FEMA, more than 450,000 people are expected to seek federal aid in recovering from this catastrophic event, and there have been at least 8 deaths and more than a dozen people injured.
When I opened the door, more water rushed in, and all of my stuff flew out, and it just kept coming in. All I could grab was my wallet and my phone. That's all I knew to grab.
Ate a lot, and we just praised God, and we were rescued, so we're very thankful.
By putting their life first and protecting their life, knowing that they can always go back and rebuild.
Our town is destroyed, and it hurts.
And the goal is rescue, and that's the major focus for the day. That's my directive, is that we want to focus on getting people where they are and getting them out of their home.
The truck right here, there's a truck driver stuck here in about 10 feet of water. Sir, they're putting the boat in just now. They're on their way. If you can hear that, that is the airboat firing up. I feel like I can finally breathe. Kind of a sigh of relief.
Thank God that you guys was right here to get me, put me back on land safe. I appreciate you.
This is gonna sound weird, but can I hug you? I'm so happy.
When the state of Texas was rocked by Hurricane Harvey in 2017, the vacant speedway offered a perfect plot of land for Copart Incorporated to store a vast majority of displaced and totaled vehicles impacted by Hurricane Harvey, and the track officially closed for private events. Then in 2018, work would officially begin by developers of the Southern Point Planned Community Development, and today the old speedway is in the middle of demolition. Now that's about all that an outsider from Tennessee, born well after the track's glory days, can say on this once great racing facility, but on the YouTube channel titled Texas World Speedway to Finish Line, there exists an 11-chapter series of interviews from people who were there in the track's glory days. I'm not going to show all of them, but here's just a few highlights of some stories from those who were actually there and lived it during that time.
We were involved with a church group, and we were looking for a project, and about that time the track was going to open up, and so we thought that would be a good thing to do. So I had a group of altar boys for the church, and we got in touch with the track management, and they let us come on board and on the very first race. So we were out here selling programs, drinks and concessions with our church group. It was a good project for us because the races were kind of spread out a little bit, and it gave us a chance to make some revenue for the club.
They had to have an FIA race to check the track out before they had the pros come. So it was the equivalent of a regional race, but you could race here if you had an FIA license too. So some of the pros showed up just to learn the track, on a low pressure environment, and it was pretty much a typical regional race, except it was obviously very exciting on a new high-speed track that nobody had ever seen before. It was a SCCA sanctioned race on the FIA schedule, and we raced the 3-mile course using the NASCAR 3 and 4, and then coming off one where they still do today. And everybody had to learn gearing and buy taller gears, because this was by far the fastest course that anybody had ever raced on because of the length of the straight. And so it was a lot of learning going on. And as tires improved, especially going into one, in my Formula Ford, you had to lift because they were harder, and then they finally developed the cantilevered sidewalls and the slicks for the Formula Fords, and that's when you could start taking one flat out.
The track was originally built by a promoter named Larry Lopayton, who was an attorney in Detroit, Michigan. And he built the one in Brooklyn or Brookfield, Michigan, that they still run at. And then he built this one. And this car, it was a public company. And the public company went bankrupt because they couldn't quite pay all of the bills, and the place was just not profitable enough and was subject to people not having accommodations and rain and schedule. And the people they were supposed to come from the 4 main cities, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston. didn't come, and that caused a problem. So Lil Peyton lost it through a bankruptcy, and then Dick Cano, who ran the place for a long, long time, and his group bought it, and they also owned Pocono at that time. And Dick was sent to manage this one, and he did for a long time. And they sold it to a Japanese group somewhere probably in the 90s, maybe a little earlier than that even. But and they started a giant reconstruction program, which includes some half-finished projects that never got, and they went bankrupt also. And Cano and his group took it back and have run it since then. But it's just been a very stable, good place for everybody to race, pretty safe. The Japanese company was making a run at doing this, and we're going to buy this one. They did buy this one, but it was financed. And a physician who built a race car, a street car that could be raced, got involved in the program and started redoing this location. And in doing that, you can see bits and pieces of things that happened. It's the grandstands over the pit lane were going to be accommodations, and that project was never finished. And they rebuilt the tower up here, and when they did, it was almost finished, or was finished. At any rate, they went under, and the constructor that helped build the place had a mechanics and materialman's lien on the place, and anything you could take out that did not damage the structure you could repossess, and in that case repossessed all of the glass windows in the tower except for the top floor.
And that'll do it for a look down memory lane on Texas World Speedway. Let me know what your thoughts were on the old racetrack. Was it a good track or an experiment gone wrong? Did anyone go to a race or perhaps get to see the racetrack at all? Drop a comment down below and continue the discussion. Have a suggestion for another track, team, or other racing figure for Rise and Fall? Let me know your suggestions down below in the comments. If you enjoyed it, would you please give it a like? It helps my channel continue to grow. Also, if you're new here, or if you just haven't done so yet, please hit subscribe and turn on notifications and never miss a new video. And you can follow me on Twitter at DannyBTalks. I stay rather active there as well. And as always, I really appreciate you taking time to watch my videos, and I hope you have a great day. Bye, guys.